Everyone told you that being nice was the key to success. Be kind, be agreeable, smile at people who disrespect you, apologize when you've done nothing wrong, and somehow, the world would reward you for it. That's the lie they sold you, and you bought it. Every single day you soften your edges, you swallow your anger, you laugh at jokes that weren't funny, you say, "It's fine," when it isn't fine, and you wonder, quietly, in the dark, why nobody seems to take you seriously. Why your ideas get ignored in meetings but the same idea from someone louder gets a standing ovation. Why the person who pushes back, who argues, who refuses to apologize, why that person seems to rise while you stay exactly where you are. This isn't a coincidence, this is by design, and the sooner you understand that, the sooner everything changes. Here's what nobody will say to your face. Nice people finish last, not because the world is cruel, though it often is, but because niceness, as most people practice it, is indistinguishable from weakness. And weakness, in every social structure humanity has ever built, gets punished. Not always loudly, not always obviously, but consistently, relentlessly. In the small moments where your opinion gets dismissed, in the meetings where you're talked over, in the relationships where your needs are always negotiated last. You are being punished right now for a virtue you were told to cultivate. And the cruelest part? You keep cultivating it, hoping that eventually, someone will notice and reward you for it. They won't. Think about the people in your life who command genuine respect. Not liked, respected. There's a difference, and understanding that difference is the entire game. The most liked person in any room is usually the one who agrees with everyone, offends no one, and stands for nothing in particular. They're pleasant, they're forgettable, they are social furniture. But the person who is respected, who walks into a room and subtly shifts the energy, who speaks and gets listened to, who can say no without explanation, and have that no accepted without argument, that person is operating by a completely different set of rules. Rules nobody taught you. Rules you were, in fact, actively taught to violate. Nietzsche called it the slave morality. The idea that weakness, humility, and self-denial get repackaged as virtues, not because they are virtues, but because it's useful for people in power to have everyone else believe that. If you believe that suffering quietly is noble, that enduring disrespect with grace is a form of dignity, then you'll never challenge the people who benefit from your silence. You'll stay in your lane. You'll be grateful for whatever scraps the system offers, and you'll call it being a good person. You'll call it being nice. But Nietzsche saw what that actually was, the morality of the defeated. It dressed up as righteousness, and you've been wearing that costume your entire life. Now understand what this costs you in concrete, measurable terms, because this isn't abstract philosophy. This is your actual life. Think about the last time you agreed to something you didn't want to agree to. Maybe it was taking on extra work without extra pay because you didn't want to seem difficult. Maybe it was staying in a conversation that was draining you because leaving felt rude. Maybe it was laughing along with someone who was subtly mocking you because calling it out felt like overreacting. Every one of those moments was a transaction. You paid something, your time, your energy, your dignity, and you received nothing in return except the temporary comfort of avoiding conflict. Add those moments up over a week, a month, a year, a decade. What you have is a life that has been quietly, consistently negotiated away from you, one small capitulation at a time. The person who doesn't respect you isn't a villain in this story. They're just reading the signals you're sending. Social dynamics are not complicated. They are brutal and simple. When you accept poor treatment, you are communicating that poor treatment is acceptable. When you apologize for things that aren't your fault, you are signaling that you believe you are at fault. When you shrink yourself to make others comfortable, you are teaching them that you are the kind of person who shrinks. And they learn. People always learn. They learn the exact shape of what you'll tolerate, and then they operate right at that edge, for as long as you allow it. Robert Greene understood this when he studied power across centuries of history. What he found wasn't complicated. It was almost insultingly simple. Power doesn't go to the kindest people. It doesn't go to the most talented people. It goes to the people who understand how power actually operates and refuse to pretend otherwise. They don't make themselves smaller. They don't over-explain. They don't perform humility to make others comfortable. They project certainty even in uncertainty. They hold eye contact a beat longer than feels comfortable. They let silence do work that most people rush to fill with nervous chatter. They are strategic in ways that most people, raised on the mythology of niceness, are not even equipped to recognize. And because you can't recognize it, you can't defend against it, and you certainly can't use it. Here is the thing about people who command respect that will feel genuinely uncomfortable to hear. They are not, at their core, trying to be liked. That is the fundamental inversion. From the time you were a child, you were rewarded for being liked, good grades for being cooperative, praise for being agreeable, social inclusion for going along with the group. The entire architecture of your upbringing was designed, with the best of intentions, to make you prioritize likability, and it worked. You are deeply, almost biologically oriented toward making people like you, but likability and respect are not just different, they are often in direct opposition. The actions that generate one frequently destroy the other. Every time you soften a hard truth to avoid conflict, you gain likability points and lose respect points. Every time you apologize reflexively, you seem pleasant and signal weakness. Every time you agree when you should push back, you maintain harmony and erode authority. This has been happening your whole life, and you didn't even know the scoreboard existed. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. People misread this as cynicism or cruelty, but read it again carefully. He's not saying be cruel. He's not saying be a tyrant. He's making a clinical observation about how human loyalty actually operates. Love, which in this context means being liked, being adored, being popular, is contingent. It depends on your ability to keep giving people what they want. The moment you stop, the love evaporates. Fear, which in modern terms we might reframe as respect, as a kind of gravitational authority, is more durable. People don't abandon someone they genuinely respect the moment circumstances change. They think twice. They consider consequences. They recognize that this person has a quality that they need to account for. That quality is the thing nice people give away for free every single day without understanding its value. Let's go deeper into what that quality actually is, because it has a name and you can develop it deliberately. It's called frame control. Your frame is the lens through which you interpret reality, and in any social interaction, one person's frame dominates. When you're in a meeting and someone talks over you, either your frame, "This is unacceptable, and I will not tolerate it," wins, or their frame, "This person can be talked over," wins. Most people have been so thoroughly trained to prioritize social harmony that they don't even register they've lost the frame. They just feel vaguely diminished, vaguely uncomfortable, and they can't name why. But you know why now. You lost the frame. And every time you lose the frame, you are teaching the people around you exactly how to treat you. Frame control is not about aggression. This is the nuance that most people miss when they try to stop being nice and overcorrect into being aggressive. Aggression is actually a sign of weak frame. It's reactive, it's emotionally driven. It signals that the other person has gotten to you. True frame strength is almost the opposite. It's calm, it's unhurried. It's someone who doesn't raise their voice because they don't feel threatened. Someone who can hear an insult and respond with measured, cold clarity instead of heated defensiveness. Someone who can decline a request without apologizing for the decline. Someone who can disagree without the anxious over-explanation that betrays insecurity. This is what respect actually responds to. Not performance, not aggression, not calculated manipulation, just the unmistakable signal that you know your own value, and you don't need external validation to confirm it. Think about someone you know. There's always one who seems to navigate life on an easier setting than everyone else. Opportunities find them. People give them the benefit of the doubt. Conflicts seem to resolve in their favor. And if you're being completely honest with yourself, they're not necessarily the smartest person you know, or the most talented, or the most qualified, but they carry themselves differently. There's a quality to how they occupy space, physical, conversational, occupational, that signals something fundamental about how they see themselves and expect to be treated. That quality was not given to them. They developed it. Or they were raised in an environment that developed it for them, which is why it feels so natural and why you can't quite reverse engineer it by watching. But it can be built. It is not mysterious. It is a set of behaviors and beliefs that, once understood, can be adopted deliberately. The first belief that underlies all of it is this: your presence is a gift, not a burden. Read that again. Most people, deep down, operate from the assumption that they are imposing on others by existing fully, that taking up space, expressing preferences, asserting needs is somehow an inconvenience they need to compensate for with agreeableness and self-minimization. This is the root belief of every person who has ever said sorry when someone else bumped into them. Every person who has qualified every opinion with, "I don't know, maybe I'm wrong," but every person who has done the exhausting social calculus of figuring out what everyone else wants before deciding what they themselves want. That root belief is a lie, and it is costing you every day you hold it. Dark psychology, and I use that term not as a euphemism for manipulation, but as a framework for understanding the mechanics beneath human behavior, tells us that status and worth are not assigned based on intrinsic quality. They are assigned based on perceived value. And perceived value is disproportionately influenced by behavior that signals scarcity. The person who is always available is available. The person who always agrees is agreeable. But the person who sometimes says no, who has opinions that don't bend under social pressure, who doesn't laugh at every joke, who doesn't rush to fill every silence, that person registers as rare. And humans, by deep evolutionary wiring, assign more value to things that are scarce. You have been making yourself infinitely available, infinitely agreeable, infinitely accommodating, and then wondering why people treat you as something ordinary. You have been training them to. Here's what the complete realization looks like when it arrives. And for some of you, it's arriving right now. Every social problem you have blamed on other people. The friend who takes advantage, the boss who doesn't respect you, the partner who dismisses your needs, the colleague who takes credit. Every single one of those problems has a component that originates in you. Not because you're a bad person, not because you're weak in some permanent, unfixable way, but because you have been operating from a set of beliefs about how you should move through the world that systematically undermines your own authority. You have been the author of your own diminishment. And the moment you truly grasp that, not intellectually, not as a concept you can agree with, but viscerally in your body, is the moment the pattern can actually end. Because understanding this is only the beginning. Understanding is cheap. The expensive thing is changing the behavior in real time. In the moment when someone talks over you, and every instinct says to let it go for the sake of keeping the peace. In the moment when someone asks you to do something unreasonable, and your whole nervous system floods with the anxiety of potential conflict. In the moment when you start to express an opinion and feel the pull to soften it, qualify it, make it smaller so it fits more comfortably into the space other people have decided you're allowed to occupy. Those are the moments that define whether you actually change or just feel like you understand something new for a few days before sliding back into the same patterns. The path forward requires you to get genuinely comfortable with a certain level of social friction. Not aggression, not cruelty, not the kind of conflict that burns relationships down, but the everyday friction of being someone who has preferences and expresses them, of being someone who disagrees without apologizing for the disagreement, of being someone who can hear "I'm disappointed in you" from another adult and evaluate it with the same equanimity you'd bring to any other piece of feedback, rather than collapsing under the weight of it. That tolerance for friction is the thing being nice is designed to avoid, and it is precisely the thing you need to build. Nietzsche's concept of will to power wasn't about domination. That's the misreading that makes people uncomfortable with it. It was about self-mastery, the relentless work of becoming more fully yourself, of not allowing external pressure to compress you into a shape that's more convenient for others. The person who has cultivated genuine will to power in this sense doesn't need to dominate anyone. They're too busy becoming more fully themselves to waste energy on controlling others. And paradoxically, and this is the part that takes time to understand, that self-mastery is deeply attractive to people. Not in a way they can always articulate, but at an instinctive, primal level. You've felt it yourself. You've been in the presence of someone who is completely, undefensively themselves, and there was something magnetic about it that you couldn't explain. That magnetism is available to you. It has always been available to you. You've been trading it away for the false security of being liked. The question now is not whether you understand this. You do, or you will, with enough reflection. The real question is what you're going to do in the next interaction where the old pattern pulls you back. When the opportunity comes, and it will come, probably within the next 24 hours, to either shrink or stay standing, to either apologize or hold your ground, to either agree when you don't agree, or speak the actual truth of your position, what will you do? Start with something small. Start with not apologizing when you haven't done anything wrong. Start with not laughing when something isn't funny. Start with letting silence sit for a moment instead of filling it with nervous noise. Start with saying what you actually think, once, in a context that's low stakes, and noticing that the sky doesn't fall. Respect is built in these moments, not in grand gestures, not in dramatic confrontations, but in the accumulation of small refusals to betray yourself for the comfort of easy social harmony. The world does not reward niceness. It never has. It rewards the clear signal of self-possession, the unambiguous communication that you understand your own worth and have decided to stop negotiating it downward to make other people comfortable. Every person you admire for their authority, their presence, their ability to move through the world on their own terms, they are not special. They are not endowed with some quality you were born without. They simply stopped apologizing for existing. They stopped making themselves small. They stopped being nice in the way that was slowly, quietly destroying them. You've been doing it long enough. If this conversation reached something in you, if any part of this landed not as an idea, but as a recognition, subscribe. Not because you need more content, but because you're at the beginning of something. And the work of unlearning a lifetime of self-minimization takes sustained attention. The people who respect you most will be the ones who watched you stop trying so desperately to be liked. That person who made everyone comfortable, who smoothed every edge, who never caused friction. Nobody remembers them. But the person who finally decided their own perception of themselves mattered more than everyone else's comfort, that person leaves a mark. Stop being nice. Start being real. The respect follows.